Strong women bringing change guarantee.
Welcome to Women Lead, a production of the Women of Color Empowerment Institute. We are your hosts. I'm Bernadette Norris Weeks.
I'm Michelle Austin Pammies.
And I'm Kathy Eggleston.
We have a great show for you today, folks. And the show is about communicating with confidence. And this was a part of our Advocates for Change event that we had recently at the African American Research Library. And we invited some really special guests. They included Betty Davis, who is the certified meteorologist at WPLG Local 10. We also had Lily Pardo, who is the Director of Public Relations and Community Affairs at WSVN-TV. Sheri Brown from the Community Foundation. She is the Community Impact Vice President there. And of course, our very own Kathy Eggleston, yay, our WOCI Director. So what a panel it was.
Well, I was so excited to be on this panel and to tackle this topic, communicating with confidence. You know, as a professional communicator, I get a little bit miffed when I hear people call communication skills soft skills, as though they're optional. One of the most important skills anyone can have for leadership is communication. There's nothing soft about communication.
You're absolutely right.
And communicating with confidence has to do with not just appearing confident, but being effective. Being able to get that message across in the way you want it to come across, and being credible when you speak. I think that communication is almost everything. I mean, we have to email, we have to text, we have to write letters, we have to speak. And forget about speaking in public speaking, that great fear. So essential, can't do without it.
Essential, and a lot of women, and especially women of color, a lot of women who are in professional spaces that you wouldn't think would have issues communicating with confidence. We're finding that the topic is something that everybody kind of struggles with from time to time.
Right, and again, it's not a nice to have. This is essential. For example, the book, The Confidence Code, found that men, on average, overestimate their abilities by 30%.
Beautiful.
They're confident. They think they can do something 30% better than they can. Women, on average, underestimate their abilities by 30%. They're bright, they're competent, and they don't know it. They're not confident. We have to talk about it.
We have to talk about it, and even showing up in spaces and not always being able to identify someone who looks like you in those spaces, and trying to figure out how you find your way, how you show up confidently, how you project yourself, and how you do it in a way that you're not fearful of being seen in a negative light.
I have to say that we're talking about women of color. The other day I was speaking to you and I said something wrong, I mispronounced it, and I said, I'm not a native speaker. Well, let me tell you, a native English speaker. So let me tell you, those issues affect your confidence and your communication skills. If you have an accent, and what's even as a woman of color in this country, we do speak differently in our communities. And if your accent is different from the accent of the mainstream, that makes it difficult for you to feel confident about your communication skills. So communication is an art. It's something that we have to work at also. In other words, it's not just an art. And marketing, you have to market yourself every day, no matter where you are.
And you'll find with this panel that it doesn't come as something that's really easy for everybody, because the panelists share with us how they practice communicating well.
Absolutely. And so it's art, it's science, it's preparation, and this panel will tell you all about how to communicate with more confidence.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. At the Women of Color Empowerment Institute, our mission is to enhance and expand leadership by women of color. We do this in a variety of different ways, including but not limited to providing mentorship opportunities for young professionals where we assist in helping to create paths to leadership. We empower women to develop capacities for social change. We produce programs that promote heritage awareness, and we provide training opportunities for business and government. Our institute holds seminars focused on professional success techniques, and we host many other events such as our popular Advocates for Change and Leaders Connect. The Women of Color Empowerment Institute publishes a magazine called Women Lead. Our signature event is the Women of Color Empowerment Conference, a yearly conference where hundreds of leaders gather from all across the United States and beyond. To learn more about membership and how you can support our programs or be a sponsor of the Women Lead TV, visit us at nationalwomenofcolor.com. Again, that's nationalwomenofcolor.com.
The law office of Austin, Pammies, Norris, Weeks, Powell is a full-service law firm practicing in the area of governmental law, including the representation of municipalities, civil litigation, personal injury, real estate, and corporate transactional matters. With over 100 years of collective experience, our attorneys are admitted to practice before state courts, federal courts, and the United States Supreme Court. We are conveniently located in downtown Fort Lauderdale and can be reached at 954-768-9770. Or for more information about the law firm of Austin, Pammies, Norris, Weeks, Powell, visit our website at apnwlaw.com. That's apnwlaw.com.
So in jumping right into our panel called Communicating with Confidence, my first question is for Kathy. And Kathy, my question is, for decades, your career focused on corporate communications. And I know that a lot of women in the room sometimes try to navigate how to delicately communicate in corporate spaces effectively, in corporate environments, especially when saying the wrong thing could potentially be very impactful for your career in a negative way. And so I would love for you to tell us offer some advice as to how you think we can communicate in corporate spaces more effectively, confidently, and with the right note or tone.
All right, thank you, Bernadette. I am so excited to be here, and I'm going to apologize straight away to my camera person because I'm going to stand up. Right, so now I'm out of frame. How do I look? Great. Thank you. All right, I truly was not fishing for compliments. But really the first point I wanted to make is just that communication is all five senses. And as professionals, business leaders, you do have to know and understand that people form an opinion of you before you ever open your mouth, right? So sight, sound, touch, smell, taste, all five senses, think about that and consider that when you are considering your agenda and how best to navigate and communicate your agenda so that you can advance your goals and objectives. I think that, when we do that, we can actually have that interface with who we are authentically, and then just make decisions. I'm not telling anybody to alter who they are, but make informed decisions about how you want to show up in any particular situation so that you meet your objectives. That's what it's all about in the business world.
Very good, Kathy. Now, Betty, we see you night after night as the Chief Certified, let me get that in there, Chief Certified Meteorologist at WPLG Local 10. And you certainly can't be average serving in that position, in that role, given all of the weather events that we have in South Florida and the need to have someone in that role that you can really trust. And so I'm wondering about your body language. And in terms of body language, how does body language affect communication, and can it be controlled?
It's great to be here tonight, by the way. What I do is probably unique to everyone in this room and your profession. And body language is very much a part of what I do. So when I'm on TV communicating a weather message, I want my body language I want the tone of my body language to mirror the message I'm trying to put out there. If I'm delivering a serious weather message, then I want to be serious. When I'm on TV, I am controlling what I'm doing. I'm naturally a very expressive person. I use my hands a lot. So when I'm on TV, I maybe don't want to use my hands too much. I want to not stand with my hands closed all the time because I don't want to appear timid. So I'm always thinking about how are the gestures that I'm making, how do they fit into the message that I'm projecting? I don't know if any of you know this about weather forecasters or people on TV delivering a weather message. I do not have a script. So when I'm on TV every day, I'm just talking to you. And like you said, prepare, and knowing your subject matter. Every day when I come in, I look at forecast models, I prepare, so I know what the weather is doing. So I get out there, and there's a lot going on in a TV studio. There may be someone talking in your ear. The studio is really cold. You're trying to follow time cues. So it has taken years of practice and years of coming into my own. Ultimately, I just try to be myself, but body language is important. I want to come across as someone with authority, someone you can trust, but also someone you like. So the whole time I'm up there, I have all those things spinning in my head. How am I moving? What am I saying? Do the movements match? All of that is at play, so I can be someone that you would want to watch and trust when you get your weather information. So body language is very important.
Thank you, Betty. Now, Sheri, let's talk about something not so fun, I guess, because communication is difficult enough, but conflict situations, in those situations, it is much more so. Can you share any of the skills that you have developed in communicating in conflict situations?
First of all, thank you, Bernadette, and thank you all for coming out. Yes, I can share some skills I developed because I used to just tell people off, just tell them a piece of my mind. I learned that doesn't work as well as you get older, right? You get wiser in terms of how you should communicate and present yourself. But first of all, I would say that conflict is a part of life, right? So just by show of hands, how many of you experienced conflict within the last, let's say, 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, some type of conflict, right? And it could be professional in the workplace, it could have been at home, wherever it was. Conflict is always ever present. So the key about conflict is how you deal with it, because conflict impacts the outcome, right? How you deal with it impacts the outcome. So I've had conflict with supervisors or bosses. I've had conflict with staff, and I've had conflict in the home. I've had conflict just all over the place. And one thing I've learned is that I have to, number one, there are three things I've learned. Number one is to not shy away from the conflict or shut down. And to really confront the conflict and to deal with whatever the situation is. And for me, it was not healthy for me to just bottle it up and shut down and close in, because I would end up tossing and turning and just having just mental anguish, not dealing with the conflict. And so I had to grow into learning how to address the situation in a way that would bring about peace within me. And it's all about having peace and protecting your peace. So you have to deal with this conflict, and it's key not to shut down. The second key is I've learned to not get emotional when dealing with conflict. And emotion sometimes can be really, really erratic, depending on what the conflict is. You could, like I said, go off on people, quote unquote, tell people a piece of your mind and all that kind of thing. But that's letting your emotions take over and causing you to have just an erratic reaction to the situation. And you want to be in control. That is one of the keys to dealing with conflict. It is maintaining control. Not getting emotional, not being a bag of water, especially as women, we tend to be emotional beings, and people expect us to cry and just get all just flustered and so forth. We have to maintain our composure in a conflict situation, and we have to monitor ourselves. I love what you're saying about how you monitor and control your body language, because in conflict, you do have to monitor your body language. You have to monitor those facial expressions, right? Because sometimes your face can tell it all without you saying a word, and people end up reading your facial expressions and already and formulate their feedback to you based on how you look, which could escalate the conflict, right? So you have to monitor your facial expressions. And one of the things I've learned to gain control in a conflict situation is to pause. There's something about that pregnant pause when you're in a conflict that grounds you in that moment. You take that deep breath, and it allows your mind to start generating your response. So it prevents you from being just immediately reactive, to really calculating and strategizing what your response is. And it's okay to slow it down when you're in a conflict situation, so you can be very thoughtful in how you respond. So the third thing I learned as I pause, slow it down, take my breath, ground myself, is I ask clarifying questions. And that is a skill I had to learn. Asking the question to clarify with the person why, that's the key term, why they feel the way they feel, or why they're expressing themselves the way they express, what generated their concern or issue that involved me, but really taking an inquisitive standpoint in the situation and listening. And that way you balance that conversation out. It keeps it from escalating, and it allows for a dialogue to take place with you and that individual. And then from there, after you listen, I've learned to then state my position, and I state it very firmly, and I stand in my position unless they have caused me to change my position through listening and understanding. So that's how I dealt with conflict.
Very good, Sheri. Some people fear public speaking more than death. Have you all heard that before? You heard that, right? And have any of you had such a fear in the past? And if so, what did you do to overcome it, to be the bosses that you all are right now?
I'll take it first. And I will say that I had heard that statistic, and a friend, a mutual friend actually said, well, if you're really nervous, just take a beta blocker. But I don't, that's not what I'm advocating. That's what a friend said. I think that probably at some point we're all nervous when it comes to a topic that we might not be as clear or have a lot of information on. I think if you're speaking about a subject that you know, in your case science or meteorology, I can't imagine you ever not feeling confident about that. If you're also speaking from the heart, I can't imagine that confidence won't exude. Have I been nervous? Yeah, I still get nervous, and it's like the outlier effect. The more you do something, the more comfortable you get. So if I want to become a better writer, I write every day. If I want to become a better speaker, I make sure I find opportunities to. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And it's practicing, whether it's in front of a mirror. I think you had mentioned sometimes you record yourself and you play it back. Talk to other folks that could give you constructive criticism. I think nervousness and a little bit of anxiety is okay. It propels us to do better. But I find that the more I do something, it's just the outlier effect. The more you do, the more hours you put in, you start easing into it. And, then you're at some point when if you're prepared and if you've practiced and if you feel comfortable about your topic because you research, that you have an aha moment. And once you pass that aha moment, then it gets better every single time. I think it's rare the people who have that natural ability to just be unbelievable speakers. We see that at church. We see that in other industries. I think it's practice. I think we all, even to this day, it's a practice that we just get better at it every single day. The more you do it, the better you get.
So anybody can do it, is what you're saying. Just practice.
I believe so. I mean,
Yeah.
if it isn't,
All right.
it's probably challenging for someone, a little bit more challenging for someone who's
Yeah.
shy, and people who are, have a little bit of anxiety. But I think that sometimes you take those things and you use them to your advantage.
They can jump
Nervous
in.
anxiety could be, you could turn it into propelling yourself to do better, or to use humor, or to use something that eases you into speaking. We all have to speak. That's how we communicate.
So, in as much as people think that I'm an extrovert, I really consider myself more of an introvert. But I have to speak because it's a part of the work that we do. And I can share with you a couple of tips because I'm nervous now. Like under here, I'm like rubbing my hands, like you don't see it. But always nervous before I speak, even though I speak a lot. But some of the tips that help me get over my nervousness, and not only do I speak, but people now, I sing at funerals and things like that. And my sister's out there, she knows I murder hits. Like if I'm not reading the words of the song, I'll just chop it up. So I'm super nervous when people are asking me to take the stage and things like that. But how many of you think that I see you out here in the audience? How many of you think that I actually see you? I see you, but I don't see you. And the reason why is because whenever you speak, a tip that might be helpful to you is you have an audience in front of you, but you don't focus on the people who are in front of you visually. You find markers in the room. So actually what I'm focused on when I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the speakers in the back. There are 4 speakers. So as I'm rotating my eyes, you think I'm looking at you, but I'm looking at the speakers, because sometimes if you make eye contact, that will really just get you just all discombobulated when you're speaking. So, find focal points in the room. And if you don't have focal points, you find the happiest face in that audience to lay your eyes on. The one that's nodding and agree, that's your fallback that you go to when you're in the audience, right? So that really helps. And obviously knowing your content really helps. But I think the third thing that really helps me is the confidence comes from knowing that I have something to say that someone wants to listen to. And that is truly what gives me the confidence to speak publicly, because if God has given me this gift to share, then I have to own that gift that He's given me and know that it was placed upon me to touch someone, whatever the audience might be. So I kind of take it to a spiritual level whenever I have to speak, and honestly, no matter what the topic is, that's on our board, in those board meetings, I'm praying, let this great docket touch somebody on this Zoom, and they approve it. So I'm always in a spiritual realm for me personally when I'm having to speak, that whatever my words are, they land to touch someone in a special way.
Well, ladies, quick and short communications via text message and email is the norm now in business. But sometimes short communication does not convey your the real meaning that you intend to convey, and oftentimes there can be misunderstandings. Do you have any recommendations for communicating effectively via text message or email?
I would say, don't do it. No, just be very careful. And if you type something up that you're gonna send, read it again and again. And if you have someone in the room with you, like a spouse that you can bounce it off of, do that. But what I have found through the years, especially if it's a situation of conflict, you may want to try to avoid text and emails and really have the discussion in person. I had an incident This was years ago at a particular weather network that was bought by another company, and the new people in charge, I had a conflict with them. So I emailed them to let them know what the conflict was. And I thought the email was perfectly fine. I even told my husband, hey, I'm about to send this email because they have me doing X, Y, Z, and I want to know X, Y, Z. He was like, okay, it sounds okay to me. I sent this email. It did not go over well with the people in New York. Next thing I know, my agent is calling me. Did you send XY this email? I was like, what's wrong with it? Oh, they are so angry with you. So you really have to be careful. So what I learned is, especially if it's a new boss or new people in charge, be careful. Like, you may want to communicate in person. If it's someone that you work with that you've been knowing for a while, then I think that emails and texts are, maybe you can feel more comfortable about what you're saying. But just because you're writing something a certain way and you see it one way, it can be perceived in a completely different way. So you really do have to be careful with that. And to this day, I am very careful with sending emails, especially if it involves some sort of conflict. I usually try to go to the person and have a conversation.
What if the person's crazy?
And
What if they're trying to bury you and
there's a
set
lot
you
of
up?
crazy in my, there's a lot
What do
of
you
crazy
do?
in my industry. A lot of crazy in my industry, so.
So, I'll add on this question, the routine, corporate kind of communications. And so I think that you have to know what is the communication culture in your organization, in your industry. And no man is an island, so you can't just go off and do your own thing. If you have a culture that we put everything in writing, that's probably how you're going to have to communicate more often. If it's person to person, it's that way. If it's a youth culture and it's text messaging and all these platforms that we're all on now, then you're going to have to learn those things and master those things. I will say that I am absolutely foursquare a proponent of the BLUF method. Does anybody in here know what BLUF stands for? B-L-U-F. I see a couple hands. Bottom line up front. Bottom line up front.
I hope you enjoyed our amazing panel. We had these formidable women, all of whom are individually experts in the field of communication, speak to you and share with you how you can be better, and also share with you their fears and what they had to learn in order to reach these heights in the communication field.
It was a great show. It was great to participate in the panel. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you for your expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. We thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. And until then, be empowered.